Hello everyone, it's Christina and I am here to talk to you because it is 1 month till the eclipse, the Great American Eclipse. And they've gotten all of the states' emergency systems coordinated. The path that the eclipse takes throughout the states already being prepared, hospitals, roadways, things like that, because it's going to be something really major. Again, it's not just an eclipse. It's not just the fact that it hasn't happened in 100 years, but more of the sign that we all believe that it means. As always, feel free to comment, share, like, and subscribe. For many of us, it is a sign from God. A lot of us believe that danger is in the midst of this eclipse, especially when you look at the history of what has been going on around the eclipses the last couple of times that they actually came through here. All right. Now, there are some things that are going on. There's a lot of raging Earth activity. Climactic. It's intense, right? And in fact, a lot of you are aware of the 6.7 earthquake that took place in Turkey. What was it? Yesterday, July 20th. And you might find this really interesting because a lot of times there is a major sign before a major earthquake. Now, this earthquake was in the Turkey region, but it sent a tsunami straight to Greece, west in the Mediterranean Sea. Killed 2 people. The reports are saying it killed 2 people and that 200 were injured. And it might interest you to know that exactly 1 day before that earthquake, did you know that Turkey had 80 sheep commit suicide in Turkey 24 hours before the earthquake in Turkey? I'm sure they were baffled. But to me, the fact that it was sheep that committed suicide is a horrible omen. It's a horrible omen, okay? The sheep committed suicide. Now, that is aberrant animal behavior. You're supposed to look for these things, all right? When you see something baffling me, why would 80 sheep do that? Most creatures would not do that unless there is something, there's got to be some kind of frequency that gets emitted. And all creatures' brains run off of frequency, depending on if you're a bee, a human, a sheep, whatever you are, you run on you run on a certain type of frequency. Too high of a frequency, you can be really amped, and too low of a frequency, you can commit suicide. But there is something going on when an earthquake is about to happen. The animals just act crazy. Frogs, you name it, bees, ants. You can tell that something is really wrong. And 80 sheep committing suicide, and the very next day, Turkey has that 6.7. Wow, that was something kind of amazing, that backs up science anyway. But the omen of the 80 sheep, I mean, that right there. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about was volcanic tremors. Okay, a lot of people are confusing volcanic tremors in the Ring of Fire with earthquakes. Right? Just because the earth is shaking does not mean it's an earthquake. It could simply mean that something exploded. It can also mean that a volcano has become active. So, for an example, you look at Russia. Just to the east of Russia, we got also another major high earthquake number on the earthquake scale recently, right? It was definitely a bigger number quake than the one in Turkey, right? But the problem with Russia, what makes that one different, is that it's along the Ring of Fire. That's where a lot of volcanoes are, which is why we've got Hawaii, parts of Alaska that we do, Indonesia. Think about it. Japan. These volcanoes are very, very active right now. And I think it's really important to know that, okay? And when our shields are down on the Earth, and you've got the solar wind coming in, it clamps down on the earthquakes, but it increases volcanic activity, okay? So when that solar wind dies down a little bit, then you'll see the explosive earthquakes, genuine earthquakes like the one in Turkey, all right? But there is a YouTuber that's familiar to a lot of people. His name is, his YouTube handle is Adapt2030. And he's been screaming at the top of his lungs that we're entering a mini ice age. And I can see why a lot of people are confused, but I think he's on the right track, and I'll tell you why. Because here in Southeast Texas currently, we are experiencing temperatures that I haven't seen since the 80s. At 95 degrees on a July day. I haven't seen that since I was a little kid. But it feels hotter. It isn't that the temperatures are necessarily higher. It's the solar wind, the intensity is what's really causing the heat, because the temperatures that we have been having here where I come from, usually we're somewhere in the 105, 110 range, you know, even if it was like 103 actual temperature at this time of year, it would feel like it was 115. And now we actually have 95-degree temperatures, but it's so hot. I mean, it's not the heat, it's the fact that the shields are letting in all that solar wind, okay? That's what makes it feel hotter. But that's a dangerous sun that you're getting, okay? Now, one of the reasons that the temperatures is lower is because we have been having volcanic eruptions. And, you know, history will show that you can have one volcanic eruption and the next winter, in the next couple of crop seasons, can be brutal, okay? So you know, you get one volcanic eruption on one half of the planet, the other half of the planet pays for it, okay? Now, currently, irritated volcanic hotspots right now include a California caldera, Mount Vesuvius, one in Mexico called Michoacan, and Guatemala's Volcan de Fuego, Yellowstone, and Tanzania's Mountain of God volcano. All right. Now, what would you do, okay, if you were near a volcanic eruption? Okay. Now, me, this might sound crazy, but my dad always used to say something. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Which one is it going to be? That's not an easy decision to make, okay? But I have talked to quite a few people, and even though what I say is very intense, it is the truth. And I was saying, okay, you're in Houston, downtown Houston, and a nuclear bomb is coming straight for it. What do? Do you try to flee? Do you try to leave? Or do you stay? The question in any ground zero situation is, if you don't think you're going to make it, stay in ground zero, because it's either a quick death or a slow, brutal one. Okay? For me, and I say this because this is something I've made up my mind on. Okay? And the only way I can do that is if I have settled in my mind and in my heart everything I need to settle before that day even comes. But I've been through too much pain. I've been through too much. In fact, one of the reasons that I didn't make a video recently was because I went through almost an entire week of complete and total illness. I mean, it was just, anyway, but knowing that kind of pain, I would not elect to go through that again, ever, you know. But if you are outside of ground zero, there are some things that you're going to need to know. Depending on what type of eruption it is, we're going to assume that it's going to be one of the ones that blow all the ash in the air, that it's a major one, that we have problems with the sun for a little while, the kind that you might have issues on top of your roof caving in with too much ash. Should you find yourself a survivor of the initial volcanic blast, there are some precautions that are going to be vital for you to take, because even if you survived it, if you breathe in that ashy glass, there's a thing called sludge that forms in your lungs and becomes a concrete. So you want to be able to, if you're out there, keep your face covered with something wet. You know, those safety glasses that y'all get for free from the plants, from your job, keep a few pair of those for whoever might be in your household, because you might have some over your face, but you don't want that stuff in your eyes either, okay? Also, it would help you to make sure that as soon as you know about the volcano erupting, if it's in your area, bring your plants in, because you have to shut down your air. You might not have any electricity anyway. So you're going to need that oxygen, and your plants are going to need to be inside, because if they're out in that ash, bye-bye. And right now, with the fires that are going on, we need to plant as many plants as we can. Did you know they actually reported a lack of oxygen in our atmosphere, like, within the last month? And when we don't have those trees, we don't have that oxygen. We have an increase in carbon monoxide, dioxide, and there's nothing really to relent, nothing to suck the water out of the ground. You know, it destabilizes the earth. It makes things worse and worse and worse. And if you have those plants and you can move them in, it's going to be hot in your house because you have to seal your windows. You have to have wet towels on your door frames. You have to tape things up. No, you cannot run your air conditioner, and the last thing you want is to get stuck in your car trying to escape if the ash is everywhere. You lose your car. Don't start up your generator. You lose your $500 or more generator. Okay? What to expect? You're going to be looking at airplane crashes near ground zero. You're going to be looking at delayed rescue responses, because if you can't start your vehicle, guess what? Neither can they. We're going to have burn victims. Okay? So considering how easy it is to grow aloe vera, grow some aloe vera, have it. Know some basic first aid, basic CPR. Make sure that you take the time to look for infant CPR also, because it's different from adult CPR. All right, that's important. Also, knowing that you can move your plants around will save a lot of those personal crops you're going to need. And I wanted to apologize one more time, because I do get sick a lot, and I'll be around as often as I can. But this is the beginning of the countdown to the Great American Eclipse. And true to the Bible, when it comes to the Revelation 12 sign, due to prophetic scripture, we know that things are going to get more and more intense before, the birth and the joy happens. And, there will be joy, but again, he's got to get our attention first, and I know he's making every effort to have that. So just keep your eyes out. When you've got 6 volcanoes ready to blow around the world in 1 week or 2, and that's something you should really pay attention to. Be prepared, be aware, keep your eyes out, and also be prepared to make some hard decisions. And the best part about making a decision is when you can make it ahead of time. Be prepared. All right? God bless you all. See you next time.